So the next part of our chapter is something called as cost classification. Now why are we doing all this? We are doing all this because our ultimate aim is to get to the cost sheet. We know that cost accounting is nothing but collecting all the costs, right? We need all the costs in one place. Why? So that we can fix the selling price if we don't have the selling price, or arrive at the profitability. So in order to do that, we need this cost sheet. Cost sheet is what? Cost sheet is nothing but a statement which shows the total costs, the profits and the selling price. Okay, so why are we studying this particular chapter? We are studying this particular chapter because we need to arrive at the cost sheet. Now if need be, I can give you the format. This is the cost sheet. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember this and we are done. Over chapter. Then we can just go to the problems. But that's not how I want you all to study it. I do not want you all to, mug up or remember the format. That format should automatically come to you, right? And if that format has to come to you automatically, then we need to go through this entire chapter very systematically and step by step. Okay. Also, we will be using a lot of terms in this chapter. Some new terms which you will be learning, which you've never heard of probably, and some terms which you have probably heard of in your earlier years, right? We will be studying those terms. Why are we going to study those terms? Because many times going forward in many problems, those terms may come up. So they'll simply say opportunity cost of this is this. Have you heard of this term, opportunity cost? You may have heard, right? In your PUC or in your BCom or whatever be the case, you would have heard of this term opportunity cost somewhere, right? So nobody is going to ask you in the exam, define opportunity cost. That is not why we are studying the term opportunity cost. We are studying it because in the problem, they will suddenly say the opportunity cost of this is this. So you should know how to make use of that data which they have given, right? So this chapter is going to aim first at understanding a lot of terminology. Second, to arrive at the cost sheet. Step by step, we will arrive at the cost sheet. And as and when this cost classification is getting over, you will be able to basically jot down the format of the cost sheet by yourself without remembering it. It will automatically come to you. Guys, is it okay? So, let's look at cost classification. Very important. So cost classification, guys, cost is classified into various types. There are some parameters on the basis of which cost is classified. So the parameters are given here in this chart. It is classified on the basis of time. It is classified on the basis of behavior, elements, controllability, normality, functionality and others. Others is nothing but miscellaneous. Like there is no rules for classifying it under miscellaneous. Whatever is not covered under this will be covered under miscellaneous. Okay, so we will be looking at each of these parameters on the basis of which cost is classified. We will see how the cost is classified and what each of those classifications mean. Okay, this in itself will take 2 classes. The chart looks very small and cute at this point in time, but as we proceed you will see that it is expanding and expanding. Is that okay? So first we look at time. Time is fairly simple. Okay, when you say something is classified on the basis of time, when you say something is classified on the basis of time, what can you think of? Past, present, future, correct? So here also we are classifying costs on the basis of time. It means past costs, present costs, future costs. Okay, past costs, present costs, future costs have different names. Okay, so we are going to see what those names are. So the first one is Historical cost. You all would have heard of this term somewhere. Yes, in accounts. Yes, you would have heard of this term in accounts, right? Historical cost. So historical cost is usually associated with purchase of machinery, if you remember from accounts, right? So what do you mean by historical cost? It is the cost of the past, which means we are talking about some event which would have happened in the past. That event has already happened. Once the event has happened, I have put all the costs together and presented it. That is your historical cost. So in relation to purchase of machinery, the event is purchase of machinery. You have already purchased the machinery, correct? Then what have you done? You have put all your purchase costs, your erection costs, commissioning costs, installation costs all together and capitalized it, correct? So that is your historical cost. So here the event is purchase of machinery. The event is already over. After the event gets over, then I have collected all the costs and presented it today. That is why they are costs of the past. It relates to an event which is happened in the past. Guys, is it okay? So historical cost, cost of the past. Okay, the best example is purchase of machinery, right? Event being purchase of machinery which has happened in the past. Second one is, guys, current cost. Current cost, as the name suggests, right now, which means it is present. It is present. So right now there is an event taking place right now. So what is the date or month that we are looking at? Let's say we are in the month of March right now. Okay, we are in the month of March right now. I ask you, calculate the cost pertaining to March. So that is right now. We are not talking about any event which has happened in the past like in the previous case. We are talking about right now. So if I ask you to calculate the cost pertaining to right now, that is the month of March where we are, then you will say that is current cost. Guys, is that okay? Very simple. It's simply past, present and future. That's all. There is nothing else to it. Why I am saying this? Why do we need to know this? Because in the problems they'll say historical cost was this. So you should know. It should suddenly come to you. Okay, they're talking about the past cost. Okay, or the current cost is this. Okay, so the current cost they have calculated for this current period to be this. That's it. Nothing else. Okay. So current cost is the cost relating to the present period. Guys, the future cost. Now only future was left. So the future costs, they are known as predetermined costs, as the English word suggests, predetermined. Before the event is happening, I have determined the cost today, right? So you remember yesterday's example of Pawan and Mai, right? Yesterday's example of Pawan and Mai where she wanted to get furniture manufactured from Pawan, right? And had he manufactured the furniture for her? No. She wanted 100 units. She asked him for a quote, right? Give me a quote, then I will tell you. So then Pawan said, give me 1 day. So then did he manufacture in that 1 day? No. What did he do? He estimated that, okay, I have to manufacture 100 units of this and 100 units of that. So the costs associated with this manufacturing process will be X. And then he told her that it will be X. Then it's up to her to take a decision. So that period in which that manufacture would have actually happened, it's not come yet, right? Only if she says yes, he'll start manufacturing. So this event is happening in the future, but he is determining the cost right now. So that is predetermined cost. It is determined in advance. Before the event happens, the cost is determined. That is why it is called as future cost. Guys, is it okay? You remember yesterday's example, right? So the same example, if we put it here, you will be able to understand what is the difference between historical cost, current cost and predetermined cost. So guys, very simple, nothing Greek and Latin about this. It's a very simple classification, right? So on the basis of time, we have three types of costs: past costs, present costs, future costs. Past costs are historical costs. Event has happened in the past, because of which cost has been determined after the happening of the event, right? Present cost, current cost. It is determined for the current period, right? Or it is the current cost of production, right? Third, what is the third one? Predetermined cost. The event has not yet happened. The event is going to happen in the future, but I have determined the cost right now for that future event. That is why predetermined cost. So predetermined cost will also be known as estimated cost. Is that okay? Everybody, very simple. Can we move on? Next one. Okay. Guys, this is important because you will be using this a lot in your problems. Okay. What is this? On the basis of behavior. So how do costs behave? Okay. Very, very important. I am sure some of you may even know this classification. Have you heard of fixed cost, variable cost? So on the basis of behavior, costs are classified into three types: fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost. Okay. So guys, first we are going to look at fixed cost. Okay. So fixed cost, what do you mean by fixed cost? Fixed cost is that cost which does not change with output. Now again, definition is given. Yeah, we understand the meaning. Yeah, if fixed cost will remain the same, even if output is changing, it remains. But what does it actually mean? What do you mean by this? So let's take a small example, okay, to understand this. Let's say I know that y'all are going to join my class. Okay, I hire this room. Okay, so I've hired this room because I know that my costing classes are going to start and all of you are going to join. So Sahana ma'am, let's say it belongs to her. Okay, so I asked Sahana ma'am, I need this room on rent. Can you please tell me how much you are going to charge? So she says, yeah, sure, it is free, you can use it. It is going to cost you 1 lakh rupees. Okay, so she says the room cost is 1 lakh rupees. I say, okay, no problem. I give her the advance and book everything and I'm done, right? Today my class is starting. Okay, you all told, how many of you are there in this class? Around, let's say around 80, right? So all 80 of you told me that you will be coming to my class, right? That's why I booked such a big room. Now on the first day of class, only 50 people turn up. How many? Only 50 people turn up. Can I go and tell Sahana ma'am that, ma'am, I thought 80 people will come, that's why I took this room on rent and I thought I'll pay you 1 lakh rupees, but now only 50 people have come. So I don't think I'll be able to pay you so much. Will she be okay with this? No, right? She'll be like, ma'am, that's not my problem, right? You have taken the full room. Now whether 50 come, whether 80 come, whether 100 come, you have to pay me 1 lakh rupees. So she's not going to be okay with it. And if I tell her that, if I force it on her, what will she do? She said, sorry, I can't give you this room. Then can I conduct my classes? No, I can't conduct my classes. So in my example that I just gave you, you guys are my output, right? You guys are my output. So if 80 come, I have to pay 1 lakh. If 50 come, I still have to pay 1 lakh. Let's say, ulta scenario, I get lucky. 80 of you have told me you will come, but you all tell your friends also, and you bring 20 more people, and totally I have 100 students who come into the class. Then will Sahana ma'am come and tell me, ma'am, you told 80 people will come and you are paying me 1 lakh, now you have 100 people, you pay me more. Can she say that to me? No, right? And if she says that to me, will I agree? I'm like, Sahana ma'am, but this full room is one room which you decided to give me. Now why are you changing your terms? So I won't agree there, correct? So if 100 also come, I'll still have to pay her 1 lakh, correct? Let's say 0 come. None of you turn up, all of you forget. Then can I tell her something? So she'll be like, no ma'am, you told me that you're going to take the room. It doesn't matter, like if 100 are coming, 80 are coming, 50 are coming, you have to pay me 1 lakh. So even if 0 come, I still have to pay her 1 lakh. So do you see the trend here? If this is my output, which is you guys, what is happening to the cost? Is it changing? If output is changing, whatever number you put here, you put 100, you put 90, you put 87, you put 65, any output you put, is that 1 lakh changing? No, it is not changing. So how is this cost behaving? This cost is fixed. It is fixed in nature. So what is fixed cost, guys? Fixed cost is that cost which does not change with output. It is not dependent on output. Output can be anything. Fixed cost will not change. Guys, is this clear? Did you all understand? Now one very peculiar thing about fixed cost is, you can see that here, okay, in this chart itself. Fixed cost remains the same in total. So if I look at the total fixed cost, it's the same, 1 lakh. So if there are 100 students, it is 1 lakh. If there are 80 students, it is 1 lakh. If it is 50 students, it is 1 lakh. Total fixed cost is 1 lakh. But fixed cost changes per unit. So calculate the per unit cost here. So here if you calculate the per unit cost, how will you calculate? Total fixed cost divided by number of units, correct? So in the first case, what will your fixed cost per unit be? It will be 1 lakh divided by 100. So 1000 per unit. Next case, 1 lakh divided by 80. How much do you get? 1250 per unit. In the third case, 1 lakh divided by 50, 2000 per unit. And in the fourth case, 1 lakh divided by 0. 1 lakh divided by 0 is how much? How much? Let's test your math skills. So I am hearing 2 answers. How many of you will say it's 1? Nobody says, thank God. Correct. So what is this? So nobody says this is 1. So some people are saying 0. Who said 0? I could hear some of the girls say 0. 0? 0? You all are direct entry students? Huh? Not studied math? Studied math? Not studied math? Studied. Okay guys, anything divided by 0 is 0 divided by anything is 0. So this is anything divided by 0, which means this is infinity. So leave this, we are not concerned with this, this is just to show you. So guys, what is happening here? Fixed cost per unit, is it the same? No. What did I write here? Fixed cost per unit changes, right? Fixed cost remains the same in total. So for this entire case that we saw, fixed cost was the same in total, but it changes per unit. So this is how fixed cost behaves. That is why fixed cost, variable cost comes under classification on the basis of behavior, because that is how it reacts. That is how it behaves. Guys, is it okay? Everybody? So fixed, once again, fixed cost is the cost which does not change with output. What do you mean by that? As output increases or decreases, doesn't matter. Fixed cost will remain the same. It will remain the same. Yes. Now guys, one small thing here which I wanted to make you all understand. Fixed costs are of two types. Okay. We have something called as committed fixed costs and something called as discretionary fixed costs. Okay, we'll see what this means and we'll also see some examples. Okay, committed fixed costs are those fixed costs which are unavoidable in nature. So they are also known as unavoidable fixed costs. Okay, so first we'll see committed fixed costs. What do you mean by committed fixed cost? So very simple, guys. So if we were to, now I gave you an example where I was hiring this room and conducting classes. For an organization, what are fixed costs? Things like rent, salaries, all of these come under the definition of fixed costs because they are fixed. They do not, it doesn't matter how much you are producing. If you have hired an employee, for 20,000 rupees, let's say, to do a particular job, irrespective of what you are producing, whether you are producing, not producing, you have to pay that employee 20,000. You remember our COVID days? Many businesses closed down, right? Or they were on the verge of closing. There was hardly any manufacture because of COVID, because of lockdown, correct? So the businesses which were open, they had some employees who were working from home, but they were not producing anything. They had to still pay the employees, right? So that is the fixed cost. You cannot help it. Even if the output is zero, you have to pay those costs. I'm simply thinking of more examples so that you can relate to it, right? So committed fixed costs are those fixed costs which you have to bear. So in fixed costs also, there is a further classification. There are some costs, some fixed costs which you cannot reduce at all. Like if you try to make them zero, like okay, I'm incurring that fixed cost, I don't want to incur it. So if you try to make them zero, it will 100% impact your business and in an adverse way. Okay, so but there are some fixed costs which if you are incurring, you can make them zero or you can reduce them. Okay, those fixed costs, if you change, it's not going to hamper your long-term business goals. Okay, so those fixed costs are called as discretionary fixed costs. So fixed cost is there only. Okay, but in fixed costs, I can further classify. Is there a way to reduce these fixed costs somehow? If yes, then that becomes discretionary fixed cost. If no, then that becomes committed fixed cost. So we'll take an example to understand what is the difference between the two. Okay, so committed fixed costs are like your rent. So let's say there is an organization. Okay, that organization has taken a building. Okay, has taken a building on rent. Now suddenly, let's say the rent is 60,000 rupees. Okay, now the building is taken on rent. This organization, the CEO feels, Arey, I don't want to pay 60,000 this month. Let me pay 40,000 or let me pay 30,000. Can he do that? What happens if he tries to do that? The owner will call him and say, get lost. I will give the building to somebody else. Correct? You have to pay the rent. Correct? So their rent is a fixed cost. Nature of rent is fixed cost. Because you have to incur it irrespective of output. Whatever be the output, whether 0, whether 100, whether 1000, whatever be the case, you have to incur the fixed cost. You cannot run away from it. But this particular fixed cost, he wants to reduce on his own. He has not taken, he is not discussed with the owner, nothing. He suddenly decides on his own, I am going to reduce the fixed cost. Can he do it? If he does it, what will happen? The owner will ask him to leave. And if that happens, won't it affect the operations of your business? Yes. So imagine if he does that to a factory where manufacturing is happening. He does not pay rent for a given month. Won't the owner ask him to leave? And if the owner asks him to leave, then what will happen? Manufacturing will not happen. And if manufacturing does not happen, it completely impacts your business operations. So in this case, you cannot alter the fixed cost. Rent is an example of committed fixed cost. You try altering it, it will impact your business. But guys, there are some fixed costs which, if you want, can be altered. Okay? And those fixed costs are called as discretionary fixed costs or avoidable fixed costs. So see here, discretionary fixed costs or avoidable fixed costs. So these fixed costs can be changed a little. You can reduce them, right? And that is based on your discretion. It is left to you. Who are you? The organization, the management, the CEO, right? They can decide, okay fine, let's not incur this. This is not really benefiting me. And these costs, if he tries to reduce or if he tries to eliminate them completely, then it is not going to impact the business operations. So you may be wondering what kind of costs fit into this category, right? So we'll take an example, okay? So let's say I am the CEO of a company, okay? Now my policy is whenever I am hiring employees, okay, I am going to send all employees to Japan for training. Okay, so naturally if you are going to Japan for training, the airfare, the hotel bookings, the transportation within the country, all of that is managed by me, correct? Plus I have to incur costs towards training also, correct? So now every time I send an employee to Japan, let's say it costs my company 2 lakh rupees. So every time I'm hiring a new employee, I'm sending them to Japan. Now suddenly it dawns upon me, our employees, they'll anyway sit in crib and cry later. Let me not send them to Japan. Training can be done in Bangalore only. Why should I send them to Japan? Simply I'm just spending every time, every time this happens, every quarter, I have to spend like 2 lakh rupees for all the employees who have joined in that quarter, right? So that doesn't work for me. So I'm going to completely cut it off. My total training cost in Japan comes up to whatever, 2 lakh rupees. I'm not going to spend that. I'm not interested in spending that money. Can I do that? Is it compulsory for me to spend this? No, right? It is based on company policy. Company policy is, okay, you send the employee to Japan for training. If I want to change the company policy, can I not? I can, right? It is left to my decision. Yes or no? There is no hard and fast rule that this has to be done. All companies don't do it. I started it as a practice. Later I realized, no, this is not working out for me. So can I cut off that practice? Yes, I can cut off that practice. So if I cut off that practice, now employees will not be going to Japan. Instead, I will be doing the training in Bangalore for 10,000 rupees for the given quarter for all the employees who have joined. Can I not do that? So from 2 lakh rupees, I have decreased my cost to 10,000 rupees for every quarter, right? So cost was fixed here, fixed for every quarter, right? But now what have I done? I have decreased it. Is it going to impact my business operations? No, it's not going to impact my business operations. So this cost is fixed in nature, yet it is avoidable. And how is it avoidable? It is avoidable at my discretion. Who am I? I am the CEO or the management. So if they take a call to avoid it, they can avoid it. So similarly guys, like this, another example if I were to quote, let's say you as an organization are doing a radio ad. Okay, let's say you're selling a product, you're doing a radio ad, okay, every month, where the radio jockey promotes your product on the radio for all the people who listen to radio basically. and let's say you're paying, every month you're paying 5,000 rupees for this ad, okay. After a lot of analysis by your marketing team, you realize this radio ad is not really helping me reach any audience, because now, like, you know, my product caters to Gen Z, that is you guys, right? You all are Gen Z, right? No? Okay. Oh, okay, some of you may be Gen Z. Yeah? Okay. Oh God, Gen Z. Okay. Anyways, so the product caters to Gen Z, but does Gen Z even listen to radio? How many of you listen to radio? Not many, right? Like very few. So I am simply putting that money into something which is not really helping my business. So the nature of this cost, 5,000 rupees, which I am spending towards radio ads, right? This is fixed. Every month I am paying 5,000 rupees. Correct? Whether you know, manufacturing is happening, not happening, doesn't matter. I have to send the money to the radio agency to play the ad, right? But now if I cut it off, is it going to hamper my business? No, it's not going to hamper my business. Correct? So this is discretionary fixed cost, right? It is at my discretion. I can cut it off if I want to, based on the company policy and decision taken by the management. Guys, is it okay? So fixed cost, once again, fixed cost is that cost which does not change with output. Things like rent, salaries, etc., etc. Fixed cost is further divided into two types of costs. We have avoidable fixed costs and unavoidable fixed costs. Avoidable fixed costs are discretionary fixed costs. If I want to avoid them, if I want to reduce them and not pay them, I can, based on my discretion. If I decide to reduce them or not pay them, will it hamper the long-term objective of my organization? No, it's not going to affect my operations. That's why I'm able to reduce them. But committed fixed costs are those fixed costs which have to be borne by my organization. If I try to change them in any manner or reduce them in any manner, nobody will want to increase, right? Does anybody want to increase cost? That's why I'm saying reduce and not increase, correct? Obviously. So if I want to reduce them or eliminate them completely from the mix, can I do it? I can, but if I do it, it will affect my operations. Then I won't be able to run my operations basically. So then the business is impacted. Guys, is it okay? Everybody? So see here, cannot be altered, can be altered depending on management discretion, unavoidable, avoidable. If this is altered, committed fixed cost, it affects the long-term objectives of the organization, right? So examples are given here, same examples which I explained to you, but I hope you have written the examples in your own words in your book. Like if you write marketing expenses, employee training, that is there in the LMRC also. But you are not going to understand it later on when you read. Please put the example in the form that I explained to you, that we are sending employees for the given quarter for training to Japan, then this happened, then this happened. Put it that way. Then you will be able to relate to it. Is that okay? You want to take a minute to write down everything? Please take a minute. Guys, have you all written this example? Everyone has written this? Shown the change, how it is varying per unit? Okay. Okay guys, so the next cost, so fixed cost is the first cost which we have seen on the basis of behavior, right? Now the second cost is variable cost. What do you mean by variable cost? Variable cost is that cost which changes with output. So now that you know what fixed cost means, that it does not change with output, you can visualize what will happen to variable cost. Correct? So the same example we'll take. Okay, same example. Which example? The example where I hire this room from Sahana ma'am, right, to handle costing classes, right? So their rent was a fixed cost. But now you all have got LMRC, you all have got question bank, correct? All of you have got 2 books, correct? Let's say the cost of those 2 books is 500 rupees. Okay, let's say example, cost of those 2 books is 500 rupees. Now, before this class started, 80 of you told me you will come for this class, correct? So now if 80 people come for this class, I have to give 80 sets of books to all of you, 1 set for each person. So how much am I going to incur? 80 students into 500 rupees per set, correct? So how much is that? Correct? Now let's say only 60 turned up. So what am I going to do? Only give 60 books, correct? If 60 people are coming, I'll give 60. Why will I give 80? So how much will my cost be there? 60 into 500 per set. So 30,000. Let's say 100 come. Then what? This happened also, I think. I think in your DT batch books were less than the number of students who had turned up. So all the books were given and then the extra 5 or 10 books were given later on. Correct? So if 100 people come, what will happen? I will tell, array, I have 80 right now. I'll give you 80. The new ones who have registered late, please wait for a day. I'll give you 20 more. So totally what is my cost of material? It will be 100 into 500. Yes, so it will be 50,000. Suppose 0 come. Nobody turns up. Then do I have to give material to anybody? So my cost will be 0. My cost will be 0. 0 into 500 is 0. So guys, what is happening here? As output is changing, my total variable cost is also changing. Yes or no? So variable cost is completely dependent on output. It's completely opposite to fixed cost. Fixed cost was so indifferent, it didn't care only. You put whatever output you want, I will not change. Correct? Some of our habits are like that, no? No matter what we do, we don't change. Correct? Fixed cost is like that habit which never changes. But variable cost is so flexible. The minute output changes, variable cost will change. Let's take one more example. Let's say 80 people were to come, correct? I have paid 40,000 for the materials. Guys, if 81 come, how much will I pay? 40,000. Guys, even for 1 unit change, this is changing. Even for 1 unit. Here we had significant number of units, 100, 80, 60, correct? Forget that significant change. Even if 1 unit is changing, cost is changing. So see how flexible variable cost is. So it is so dependent on output. So if output changes to any degree, variable cost will also change. That is what is meant by variable cost. Guys, is it okay? It changes with change in output. So for the same example, if I were to give you a statement variable cost changes in total but remains the same per unit. Remember what it was for fixed cost? Fixed cost was ulta. Fixed cost remains the same in total but changes per unit. We saw that table. Yes. Now for variable cost, let's calculate. So here we have units here. We have total variable cost here. Let's calculate variable cost per unit. How will you calculate variable cost per unit? Total variable cost by total units, correct? So in the first case, what is our total variable cost? It is 50,000. Yes, everybody, divided by 100. How much do you get? 500 per unit, correct? In the second case, 40,000 total variable cost divided by number of units are 80. How much do you get? 500. Guys, actually you don't need to calculate this. We calculated the total only keeping 500 in mind, no? Per unit cost was 500 in all instances. That is what you will get obviously. But I am just showing you. Guys, correct? No? Okay, third case. 30,000 divided by 60, 500 per unit. Guys, 0 divided by 0 is infinity. Anything divided by 0, that anything can be 0 also. So anything divided by 0 is infinity. So you forget the last part, infinity, that is, we are not going to consider that. But see the other trend here. Variable cost remains the same per unit. As output is changing, my total variable cost is changing, but variable cost per unit remains the same. Yes? Everybody? Guys, answer. Yes. Thank you. Please copy this. So guys, your material cost, your labor cost, all of those will be examples of variable costs. Okay, you will see. As and when we are, looking at problems, you will be able to identify what is variable, what is fixed. Can we proceed? Yes? Okay. So, see here, variable cost is changing with output. We saw that at output 0, variable cost will be 0. Yes, in this case at output 0, fixed cost was still the same. Whatever it is, whatever X amount, it will be the same. So, I have given some examples as well. So this is your variable cost. So two costs we have done under behavior. One is fixed cost, one is variable cost. Guys, the next cost is semi-variable cost. What do you mean by semi-variable cost? As the name suggests, this is partly variable. Guys, if you semi-variable means partly variable. So if one part of it is variable, the other part will be fixed, obviously, no? So one part is variable, one part is fixed. So I always used to wonder, why can't we call it semi-fixed cost? We can say semi-fixed cost also, no? It will give the same meaning, right? Because one part is fixed, one part is variable. But anyway, it is called semi-variable cost. That's how this cost is known. So now what can happen is, in the problems, okay, in the problems, you will have all these three types of costs. They will give you variable cost also, they will give you fixed cost also, and they will give you semi-variable cost also. And they will tell you that this is semi-variable cost. Okay, so what do you do with semi-variable cost? See, fixed cost, you know what to do. Whatever be the output, you will keep it the same, right? Variable cost also, you know what to do. As output is changing, you will keep changing variable cost. Semi-variable cost, what will you do? So guys, always remember, when we are classifying costs, we always classify them into two types only, which is fixed and variable. If semi-variable is given to us, what will we do? We will split its fixed and variable component from each other. And once we split the fixed and variable, fixed component will go and get added to all the fixed costs, variable component will go and get added to all the variable costs. So if in a given problem semi-variable cost is given, the first thing that should come into your mind is to separate the components from that semi-variable cost. Which components? Fixed and variable. Guys, is it okay? That is the only way to treat this semi-variable cost. Now there is a way to split those components. There is a manner in which you are to split, which obviously you don't know at this point in time. We will be studying this when we come to overheads chapter. For now, don't bother. Guys, is it okay? For now, just understand the meaning of semi-variable cost. So semi-variable cost is one component being fixed, which will behave like fixed costs, irrespective of change in output. That fixed component will remain fixed, but the variable component will change with output. So some of these costs we can actually witness in our daily lives. How many of y'all here travel by cab? Nobody. Okay, y'all, okay, cab, yes. Y'all have gone in a cab? Have you all gone in an auto? Yes? No? Okay, even if you've not gone, no problem. You can go to experience something new if you haven't gone. So guys, when you look at the auto fare, how does it work? For the first 2 kilometers, it is the same, which is what? 25 rupees, 30 rupees, whatever it is. Sorry, what is the auto fare right now? 30 rupees it's become, okay. The normal auto, I'm not talking about Ola and Uber. 30 rupees, okay, great. So, I have a free ride, so not required for me to travel in the auto. So yeah, if you are traveling in the auto, the first 2 kilometers you are paying 30 rupees. Let's say you don't even travel 2 kilometers. Let's say you travel 1.5 kilometers. You still have to pay 30 rupees. Will you tell him, no, I will do unitary method. For 2 kilometers it is 30 rupees. For 1.5 kilometers it is so much. I will pay so much only. Can you do that? No, right? He won't take you only then, right? So when you look at an auto fare is semi-variable cost. Why? Because it has both variable and fixed component. The fixed component is that 30 rupees, which you have to pay irrespective of how much you are traveling, as long as it is up to 2 kilometers. Anything beyond 2 kilometers will depend on, your cost will change based on the kilometers traveled, right? So it could, if you are traveling 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers or 5 kilometers, that additional, anything beyond 2 kilometers, that number of kilometers will determine what your variable component will be. Guys, correct? Are you able to relate to it? Same thing with your, some of your internet packs or some of your mobile packs that you buy, like for postpaid connection, or if you all are using prepaid connection, whatever be the case. Some of the packs are like that this much you have to pay. Beyond this, if you are using, you pay this much extra. That is based on usage, right? So one part of it is fixed, one part of it is variable. right? So these are some of the examples that we face in our daily life, which we can relate to and understand how costs are behaving. But very important point, guys, if you are coming across a semi-variable cost, the first thing that should come to your mind is split. And what do you do with the split? Fixed goes and sits with all the fixed costs, variable goes and sits with all the variable costs. How are we going to split? Not our problem at this point in time. Later, during the course, we will come across this separately. That time I will remind you that we had done this in the first chapter. Everybody? Yes? So guys, we have finished 2 classifications so far. First classification is on the basis of time. Can you tell me what the classification is? Historical cost, current cost, predetermined cost. Perfect. Past, present, future. Second classification is on the basis of behavior. Perfect. What are the costs under behavior? Fixed cost, variable cost, semi-variable cost. Fixed cost does not change with output. Variable cost changes with output. Semi-variable cost is fixed and variable. Correct? One part is fixed, one part is variable. Perfect. You all have studied in class only now? Now anytime I ask you this, you will be able to tell me? Yes? Guys, so please go back home and revise. It will just take 10 minutes. You've already understood the concept. You can tell me this even after class. If I ask you these questions, you will be able to answer. Which means it's already gone and registered in your head, right? So you can go back home at night, spend 10 minutes and quickly brushing through. It will help you in the next day's class and it will cement better in your brain. Guys, is it okay? Okay, one more question I have for you all. Fixed costs are of 2 types. What are they? Committed fixed costs and discretionary fixed costs. What is the other name for committed fixed costs? Unavoidable fixed costs. What is the other name for discretionary fixed costs? Avoidable fixed costs. Everyone. So shall we move on to the next type of classification? So whatever we studied right here, this particular behavior that fixed cost remains the same in total and fixed cost changes per unit of the output. Do you see this in your LMRC? Please connect this to the tables that we have made to show mathematically how this is happening. You can put it here. In the LMRC you can write, check example in notebook. So it's connected properly. So when you are revising, you know where you have to go. You don't have to sit and search. Shall we move on? Guys, next classification is on the basis of elements. Now this is the point where we will start slowly building our cost sheet. From here we will slowly start building our cost sheet. Till now whatever we studied was required for application to solve problems, but cost sheet building will start from this point onwards. Okay, so on the basis of elements. When you say elements, what do you mean? The various components of a product. Okay, the various components of a product. When a product is manufactured, we saw yesterday when the cake was manufactured, we added some ingredients. Then Pratibha, right? Was it your example? Yeah. Pratibha had to put efforts into baking the cake. Then there were some other expenses that we incurred. Correct? So these are the components in manufacturing the product. So guys, ingredients are what? Ingredients are nothing but the raw material which has gone into making that cake, right? Similarly, Pratibha's effort is what? It is the labor, the human effort which has been expended so that the cake can be baked, right? and what does not fall under material and labor comes under expenses, other expenses. Okay, so guys, the elements of cost are material, labor and expenses. Material, labor and expenses. Material, labor and expenses. So now I will use one more classification to make you understand this or break it down further. Okay, so that classification is, see here only I have classified further, okay, not taken a separate chart. So on the basis of relationship, on the basis of relationship. So guys, each of these elements that we just spoke about can be further classified into their direct component and indirect component. If I further classify it into direct and indirect, it becomes classification on the basis of relationship. So now I am classifying material can be further classified into direct material and indirect material. Labor can be further classified into direct labor and indirect labor. Expenses can be further, expenses means other expenses. Other means what? Other than material and labor, because material will come under material, labor will come under labor. Other than these two, if there are other expenses, then that will come under expenses. So again, expenses I am further classifying into direct and indirect. So if I am further classifying these components or elements on the basis of relationship, I get their direct and indirect elements. Okay, now the question arises, what do you mean by direct and indirect? So when you read the definition of direct material or direct labor, it will simply say direct material is that material that can be directly associated with the product. Array, that is what I want to understand. What is the meaning of direct? Correct? When I say indirect, indirect material is that material which cannot be directly associated with the product. Okay, fine, I understand. But what do you mean by it? What do you mean that I am directly associating something with the product and not directly associating something with the product? What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this? So this is what we are going to be understanding now. Okay, so guys, come down. See here, I have given you direct costs. What do you mean by direct cost? When I say direct cost includes direct material, labor and direct other expenses. Okay, I am talking about all direct costs. What are direct costs? Direct costs are those costs which can be identified on a per unit basis. Which can be identified on a per unit basis. Because you are identifying them on a per unit basis, it says that direct costs are those costs that can be directly associated with the product. Now again, you may be clueless. What do you mean by associating something on a per unit basis? Means what? So we'll take an example. Every time we are in doubt, we'll take an example. Okay, can I have a calculator please? So guys, thank you. So this is a calculator, right? You've seen one before? Hopefully, no? Okay, so guys, this is a calculator. Now, this calculator is made of these buttons that you see. No? Yes, man, you need glasses. Who said no? He's already wearing glasses, still saying no. He needs soda glasses. Actually, your glasses are also little soda only, but still. Whoever told, both of you. Okay. Get back. Okay guys, so this calculator is made of buttons, correct? For each key, and at the same time, it has a display, right? So guys, let's say this one calculator has 30 buttons. Okay, it has 30 buttons. So if I tell you, guys, I am manufacturing 3 calculators. I am manufacturing 3 calculators. Can you not tell me how many buttons will be needed? 90. So when you see this calculator, you can tell me how many buttons are needed. Correct? Are you able to identify the buttons that are used in this calculator when you look at this one unit? Okay, this one calculator has one display. You can see that display here, right? I am manufacturing 3 calculators. How many displays you want? 3. So when you see this calculator, aren't you able to identify that display? Which means, let's say, if each button costs me 1 rupee, in one calculator, how many buttons am I using? 30, which means how much will be the cost associated with those buttons? 30. You can look at the calculator and tell that to me, if you have these details, correct? Now I'll give you another example, okay? This calculator was manufactured in a factory. The factory's rent was 10,000 rupees. How much can I put here for this calculator? Can you tell me? You will be like, I can't look at the calculator and tell, ma'am. You have to tell me rent was paid for which period first of all. Was it a month? Was it a quarter? Then you will ask me, okay ma'am, let's say it's a month. How many calculators were manufactured in that month? Then I tell you, okay, 10,000 were manufactured. Okay ma'am, rent was 1 lakh rupees. Calculators manufactured were 10,000 rupees. Then I'll have to divide, I'll have to calculate and tell you that, okay, 1 lakh by 10,000, 100 rupees will be associated with this calculator. You have to do so much calculation, right? So when you look at that cost rent, can you identify that with this one unit of calculator? You have to do a lot of calculations, then you can identify it, correct? And that one unit that you got, that you calculated 1 lakh divided by 10,000 calculators, 100 rupees, that may not even be the same the next month, because 1 lakh will be the same, but I'm not sure if I'll manufacture 10,000 calculators, so I may just manufacture 5,000 calculators. Then again rent will change. Why? Because fixed cost behaves in that manner. Fixed cost remains the same in total, but it changes per unit. Yes or no? So are you able to identify that cost on a per unit basis? No. But in the next month also, if I tell you I am manufacturing 5,000 calculators and each calculator has 30 buttons, which you know, can you not calculate the cost and tell me immediately? You know that these buttons are associated with this one unit. If I have 60 buttons, then it has to be for 2 calculators. Can't you tell me that? Very easy, right? So when I say direct costs are those costs which can be identified on a per unit basis, what I am trying to tell is, when I look at this one unit, I know exactly what that direct cost is going to be. So you know that the cost of these buttons and the cost of this display is direct cost. Guys, is it okay? But if I tell you what was the salary of the person who was supervising the manufacturer of this calculator, can you tell me how much goes here? You will be like, nah, I can't tell, because that salary, again I need details, I need to calculate. You are not able to associate that cost directly with this calculator, but you are able to associate the cost of material used in this calculator very easily. Guys, correct? So direct costs are those costs which can be identified on a per unit basis, or which are directly associated with this product. So that buttons, apart from this calculator, do they have any other use? If I have buttons lying in these buttons, if I have them lying in my go down, you know that it is for manufacture of calculator only. Can you use it for anything else? No. So you are able to identify that cost to this calculator, right? But rent, it could be for anything else also. What if I am manufacturing 10 products? Let's say I am manufacturing 10 products. I am manufacturing this calculator, I am manufacturing this remote, okay, I am manufacturing this plug here. So rent is attributable to all 3, no? All 3 of them are being manufactured in my go down. But when you see these buttons and when you see these buttons, they are all different. So you know these buttons are for the calculator, you know these buttons are for the remote. So you are able to identify them on a per unit basis, right? So direct costs are those costs which can be identified on a per unit basis. And indirect costs are those costs which cannot be identified on a per unit basis. How do you put them to units? You have to calculate. You have to figure out, acha, what was the total cost, acha, how many units were manufactured, then you calculate the cost per unit and then you put it to the product. Guys, is it okay? So all our costs. So if I were to, like jot it down for you here, all our costs are material. No, actually I'll forget this. First I will take direct costs plus indirect costs will give me my total cost. Is it okay, guys? All direct costs, all indirect costs put together give me my total cost. You remember yesterday we studied one formula. What was that? I said that is the foundation for everything. Cost plus profit gives me selling price. So all my costs can be divided into two: direct costs, indirect costs. So all direct costs plus all indirect costs will give me my total cost. To this I will add profit, which will give me the selling price. This is the foundation for your cost sheet. Is this my cost sheet? This is the foundation. I am going to start building the cost sheet from here. Guys, is it okay? Everybody? So direct cost plus indirect cost will give me my total cost. This is the foundation now. We'll build the cost sheet from here. Now, there is one terminology that you need to understand. So, can I move on? Everyone's written? Okay. So now, see here we have direct material, direct labor, indirect labor, direct expenses, indirect expenses. If I club all my direct costs together, what will come under that? Direct material, direct labor, direct other expenses, right? All these are direct costs. If I club all of them together, guys, that is called as prime cost. That is called as prime cost. So see here, direct material, direct labor, direct other expense other than material and labor. That is called as prime cost. Correct? If I club all my indirect costs together, all my indirect costs, what will that include? Indirect material, indirect labor, indirect other expenses. Guys, that is called as overheads. That is called as overheads. Okay, so this is a new term. It is a very, very typical term to costing. I don't know if you've heard it or not heard it, but overheads is a very big part of costing. So all indirect expenses are called as overheads. Please note my wordings, all indirect expenses. So usually, students get confused. If I ask them, tell me, how do you classify costs on the basis of elements? They'll say material, labor, overheads. Is it material, labor, overheads? No, it is not material, labor, overheads. Classification, this classification on the basis of elements. This is not material, labor, overheads. Do not say that. That is technically wrong. It is material, labor, expenses. See, if you say it is material, labor, overheads, you are saying material means direct material only, labor means direct labor only, because all indirect expenses are overheads. That is not the correct classification. The classification is material, labor, expenses. Material has direct and indirect. Labor has direct and indirect. Expenses has direct and indirect. Of this classification, if I put all the indirects together, then it becomes overheads. Overheads are all. Please note the word that I am using. All indirect costs. Indirect material, indirect labor, indirect other expenses. So if I ask you tomorrow, What is the classification on the basis of elements? What will you say? Material, labor, expenses. So I'll tell you why most people get confused here. Why does that confusion come? Material, labor, overheads. Why? Because that is the sequence of your chapters. So your chapter 1, if you remember yesterday we saw the overview of all the chapters in costing, right? So the first chapter is introduction to cost sheet, second chapter is material, third chapter is labor, fourth chapter is overheads. So automatically that goes and sits in your head, material, labor, overheads. But it is not material, labor, overheads. Guys, is it clear? Everybody? So all direct costs, prime cost, all indirect costs, overheads. So guys, now this cost sheet we had made, no? Can I change this a little? So I told you, no, we're going to start building the cost sheet. So from this much it will become this big, okay, in the next 2 sessions. Okay, so now this is the first iteration of the cost sheet. This is where we start. Direct plus indirect gives me total cost. Now I know that all my direct costs are what? Direct material, direct labor, direct expense. Can I write that here instead of direct costs? So I am going to say direct material plus direct labor plus direct expenses. I have just expanded on the direct costs, which we already know. What was this called as? Prime cost. So prime cost is all my direct costs. To this I am adding my indirect costs. So can I call them overheads instead? So overheads, yes, gives me total cost, to which I am going to add profit, to which I am going to get my selling price. Guys, is this okay? I have simply expanded, that's all. I have not used any other concept here. I know my total costs are direct costs plus indirect costs. Direct costs were direct material, labor, expenses. I have just written that there. And I know that all direct costs lead to prime cost. So I have written it there. And all indirect costs are known as overheads. So I have written it there. Guys, okay? Are you building the cost sheet like the way I am? In your book, have you written it? So that the first was the first iteration. This is the second iteration. Please write it. Are we done? Yes. So I have to wait. Okay. Can I proceed? Guys who said, wait ma'am, that last bench there. Done? Okay. So guys, we have understood this, right? On the basis of elements. Elements means the various components that make up the manufacture of a product. Material, labor, expenses. Material is the raw material that we are talking about, which goes into the manufacturing of the product. Labor is the effort the human effort which is expended in making that product, and expenses is anything other than material and labor, right? So this is further classified on the basis of relationship into direct and indirect components. So you have direct material, direct labor, indirect labor, direct expenses, indirect expenses. What are direct costs? Direct costs are those costs which can be identified on a per unit basis, which means when I see 1 unit of the product, I exactly know what is the cost. If I don't know what is the cost, then that becomes an indirect cost, because indirect cost will include calculations. Guys, is it okay? So indirect costs are those costs which cannot be identified on a per unit basis. So when I see this calculator, I know that the buttons and the display is for the manufacture of this calculator. So if the cost of each button is 1 rupee and 30 buttons are used in this calculator, I know 30 rupees is attributable to buttons, which is nothing but my direct material. Similarly, 1 display is used in 1 calculator. I know that the cost of display is attributable to this 1 unit, because display will only be used in the calculator, and that becomes the raw material for this particular calculator. Correct? But at the same time, if I look at a cost like rent or salary of supervisor, then I will not be able to tell how much is attributable to per unit of this calculator unless I sit and calculate. Guys, is it okay? So we always say that direct costs are always allocated, whereas indirect costs are always apportioned. Apportioned means, I think we had done this in yesterday's class when I taught you assignment. Apportionment means you will have to divide that cost in a given ratio using a certain criteria, right? You won't have a straight clear-cut answer. So that is what we are doing for rent. Na? You first asked me what is the total rent, then you asked me how many units were manufactured, then you took the total cost, divided it by the total number of units, then told me that this is the cost associated with rent as far as this 1 calculator is concerned. Also, it may not even be the same in the next period. Why? Because it's a fixed cost. It changes from period to period. Yes or no? Per unit basis, not total. Guys, correct. So we always say that direct costs are always allocated. Allocated matlab assigned. Ye leke isme dalo. That's it. End of story. I don't have to do any calculation. I know this is the cost. This cost will go to this. Like if you remember that factory B yesterday was in 1 building, and the cost associated with the rent of factory B was 5,000, whereas department not factory B, sorry, I think department D. Department A, B and C were in 1 building. So if I ask you what is the cost associated with department A, then what will you tell me? Ma'am, you have to give me some criteria. Total rent of the building is 10,000, but there are 3 departments, all 3 are going to be bearing the rent. So you have to calculate and tell me, right? That is called apportionment. But department D was in the 2nd building, and for the 2nd building you were paying 5,000 rupees. So that 5,000 rupees is completely attributable to that department D. So when I see 5,000, I know department D. I don't have to calculate there. Yes or no? So that is called allocation. Guys, is it okay? Everybody? And from this we arrived at one small format of the cost sheet. Now, question arises, okay, we've understood what is the relationship status here, direct, indirect, direct, not your relationship status, as in, and before you all get ideas, direct, indirect, direct, indirect, like we've understood that, yeah, this is how it's classified. But guys, do you know what is the meaning of indirect material? Direct material, yes, these buttons, this display, but what is indirect material? What do you mean by indirect material? Yeah, material which cannot be directly associated. Yeah, I know the meaning. Can you think of an example? Like when you are manufacturing a product, what could be an indirect material? So let's look at examples for each of these. Okay, direct material I won't be giving an example. I've already given display, buttons, whatever is used. Like yesterday in the cake baking example, flour was a direct material. Correct? That can be directly associated with the cake. Right? But indirect material, guys, is that material which is not directly associated with your product. So let's take a simple example. Now these calculators are manufactured in a factory, right? So there is a proper area where all this assembly is happening. Now after the assembly happens, the area becomes dirty. So I am using a cleaning solution to clean it. That is material. You agree? Yes, it can't be labor. Can cleaning solution be labor? No. And it can't be other expenses also, because we don't know. Is it rent? Is it electricity? Is it water? No, it is material, right? But is that material being used in the manufacture of this particular product? Can I identify the cleaning solution cost on a per unit basis? No, right? Because there is no set method of using the cleaning solution also. Maybe today the workers may use it in the morning, tomorrow the workers may use it 2 times, day after the workers may use it 5 times, depending on how dirty that area is getting. So I cannot associate the cost expended on that cleaning solution on a per unit basis. So cleaning solution is material, that is understood, but whether it is direct or indirect, it is indirect. I don't know how much of that cleaning solution cost is attributable to this product when I see it. If I want to calculate how much is attributable, what will I have to do? I will have to find out how much cleaning solution was used in this period. Then I will find out the cost. Then I will ask how many units were manufactured. Then I will take that cost divided by the number of units, then give you. So much calculation is involved, right? Which means it is indirect. It is not direct. So did you understand example of an indirect material? So direct material example was display buttons, right? Indirect material was cleaning solution. Similarly, we have direct labor and indirect labor. Now guys, very simple. Direct labor are those workers who are manufacturing this product, who are actually sitting and manufacturing this product. Why? Because whatever they are being paid, they will be paid on the number of units manufactured or on the number of hours spent in manufacturing these units. Everything revolving around those workers will be based on what they have manufactured, correct? So if one single person is manufacturing this one calculator in one day, and let's say I am paying him 800 rupees for the day, so can't you easily know that for this 800 rupees was paid towards manufacturing this calculator? So that becomes direct labor, because that direct laborer is associated with this particular product in a direct way, right? But at the same time, if there is a factory supervisor, what is the factory supervisor doing? There are 10 workers who are manufacturing these calculators. That factory supervisor is just supervising them, and he is paid 10,000 rupees per month. Now how much of that 10,000 has gone into this? Can you tell? No, you cannot tell. But for the worker who's manufacturing, I can tell how much has gone. 800 rupees, because that is what I paid him for the day, and in one day he made one calculator. So 800 rupees is gone. See, these are all hypothetical examples. For manufacturing a calculator, labor cost cannot be 800, because this is sold only in the market for 300 rupees maximum. How much is this? 250, 300, right? So practically not possible. It's just an example to tell you all. Okay, so in one day I have paid the worker 800 rupees to manufacture one unit. So I know for manufacturing this one unit, 800 was spent. So there I can easily correlate. But for the factory supervisor, can I correlate? I don't know, because his salary is 10,000. He is sitting and making sure that all of the workers are doing their work. They are manufacturing whatever target has been given to them. Abhi 10,000 mein how much will I give to this calculator? I don't know. So what you'll again ask me, ma'am, what is his salary per month? I'll say 10,000. Then you'll say, okay ma'am, in 1 month how many calculators are manufactured? Then I have to give you that figure. Then you'll take 10,000 divided by the number of units, then you'll give me an answer. That is correct. So that becomes indirect labor, because that is an indirect cost which cannot be identified on a per unit basis. You will not know in this calculator how much indirect labor has gone without calculation, without the process of apportionment. Can I say it that way? Yes? Everybody? So direct, indirect material done, direct, indirect labor done. Now direct, indirect, other expense, right? So indirect other expense, simple example, I already gave you rent. We discussed it when we were understanding what are the other expenses. Indirect, if I tell you how much rent is attributable to this one unit, you won't be able to tell me. You'll again say, ma'am, what was the rent for 1 month? Ma'am, how many units were manufactured? Then you'll calculate and tell me. Again, you are doing the process of apportionment there. You are not able to look at the product and tell me how much rent is attributable to this product. So it is other expense first of all, because it's neither material nor labor. And it is indirect because it is not directly associated with this product. It cannot be identified on a per unit basis. Perfect. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean by direct expense? Does anybody know what could an example of direct expense be? So direct expense has to be something, first of all, not material, not labor. It has to be something other than these two. And you should be able to identify it on a per unit basis. So anybody has any idea? Okay, we'll look at an example. Okay, so let's say what is your name? Ojeshwari. Ojeshwini. Okay, wow, a very different name. Good. What does it mean? Power. So is this correct? Ojeshwini. Nice. So now you have a pet name? No pet name? Oju. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Oju. So our Oju here is an entrepreneur. Okay. She completes CA and she decides that I'm going to become a serial entrepreneur. Okay, I'm going to own many businesses. So Oju gets an idea. Okay, let's manufacture calculators. Okay, for the commerce students specifically. Okay, now Oju says that, you know, this is Casio brand. Everybody knows this brand, right? We've heard of this brand, but Oju feels this brand is not great. There are many shortcomings with this brand. I will manufacture my own calculator. So she does all her research and everything, puts a plant in place and starts manufacturing calculators. So she has manufactured 100 calculators and she's like, now I'm going to sell this in the market. I'm sure commerce CA students are going to be very benefited by this new calculator which has come in the market. It integrates AI and all. Okay, so basically she goes to one stationery shop near her house and the stationery shop uncle, you know, she talks to him and says, uncle, I have manufactured these 100 calculators. Will you be willing to keep it in your shop and sell it? So uncle says, yes, I will sell your calculators. You give me all the 100 units. So she's very happy. She keeps it there and goes. Okay, she tells him, you sell it for this much money and blah blah blah. All that setting is done. Now after 1 month, Oju wants to follow up. Arey, how many sales did I make? Let me go find out from that stationery uncle. So she goes to that uncle. She sees all her units are lying there. Not even one unit is sold. So she is very sad. She tells the uncle, uncle, you told you will make sales for my calculator. Why haven't you made any sales? Not even one calculator is being sold. So uncle is very sorry. Okay, he says, Oju, actually the problem is students have come to my shop and they have you know, asked for calculators. I have kept your calculator only first because I know you are a young girl and you've just cleared CA, you're so talented, and this calculator also is very nice, features are excellent. Nobody else has come up with you know, an idea like this. But I don't know, students when they see your calculator, they say, no, we want Casio. We don't want this calculator. So Oju is very like upset, you know, like why do they not want my calculator and why do they want Casio? So she then decides, I will go and meet the CEO of Casio and ask him what is so great about his calculator. Okay. So she goes to take an appointment with the CEO. The CEO is there. He also is very nice. He welcomes Oju in his office. So now Oju has a question. She's like, sir, you have a calculator, I have a calculator. Your calculator has these features, my calculator has these features. Your calculator does not have AI feature, my calculator has AI feature. Still, students don't want to buy my calculator, they are all buying your calculator. Why? Okay, she asks this question. So the CEO says, Oju, your question is very, very valid. Whatever you are saying makes absolute sense. It's very unfair also because your product is actually better than my product in the market, but still people are buying my product and not your product. I know why. I know what is the reason. The reason is this. Brand. So Oju says, okay, what solution will you give me for this? Now I am young, I have just started, you have been there in the market for so long, obviously you have a brand. For me also, maybe 10 years down the line, I'll also have a brand. But how do I make sales now? What do I do? So the CEO says, okay, I have one solution. Okay, what you can do is, whatever calculators you have manufactured, you keep those calculators, you sell it, just make one difference, just make one change to those calculators. Take a sticker and put this Casio on your calculator. If you do that, you will be able to make sales. This is what the CEO tells her. So Oju is overjoyed. Yes sir, I'm going to do that. So please give me 100 stickers. So CEO says, nah, I'm not going to give you stickers just like that. Why should I give you? That is my brand value. I have spent years in building it. How can I just give you a sticker like that? Correct? So then Oju says, so then what am I supposed to do? So then he says, see, you want 100 stickers? I'll give you 100 stickers. Okay, but every sale that you make, you have to give me a percentage on that. So let's say if your calculator is selling for 300 rupees in the market, I want a 10% cut, which means I need 30 rupees from each sale that you have made. So the value of my sticker here, just putting my sticker here, is 30 rupees. I am lending my brand to you. So guys, what do you think about this cost? Is it material? Is it labor? Which means it is other expense? Okay. Is it direct or indirect? So when I look at this Casio, you assume this is a sticker. This is Oju's calculator. She has put a sticker. When you look at this, can you not immediately tell me what is the cost of that sticker? How much? 30? So did you calculate anything? You know it, right? You can identify it on a per unit basis, which means it is direct expense. So it's neither material nor labor, and it is expense, and at the same time it is direct because you can identify this on a per unit basis. Guys, did you all understand? So direct costs, indirect costs can be identified on a per unit basis, cannot be identified on a per unit basis. So when we are talking about indirect costs, we can say that they are apportioned. When we are talking about direct costs, we can say that they are allocated. Guys, is this clear to you? All examples. So now we started building from here. This is very, very important. All direct costs plus indirect costs gives me my total cost. Direct costs are nothing but direct material, direct labor, direct expenses, which gives me prime cost. To prime cost, I've added my overheads, which gives me total cost. That's all. This is the only thing we know about cost sheet right now. And overheads are what? Are overheads expenses? No, overheads are all indirect expenses. All indirect expenses means indirect material, indirect labor, indirect other expenses. Guys, is this absolutely clear to all of you? Are you sure? Everybody? Cool. We'll take a break now.